These are all 6 decks that you can play with the 4 starter decks that everyone gets. So there's 4 factions in SolForge Fusion. There's the red faction here, that's Tempys. There's the purple faction, that's Neckrium. Green is, I say Utera. Some people say Utera. I don't know what's correct. I won't claim to know what's correct. And then blue is Aloyan. Each of these pairings, this is something from the original SolForge when it was more of a constructed game. When you made these pairings, these were the names of the pairings. And so we're going to look at the purple-red pairing, the Bizarak starter deck. And let's just kind of go through what it has. We'll look at the Forgeborn in a moment, but we can either play with Cersei or we can play with Sunder. We've got a Sigmund Fraud. So he has aggressive, which means even if you don't have the Forge, when you play him, he will come into the front row. And then he can give your other zombies attack and give them aggressive. So one of the things that Neckrium's known for, all the different factions have a different minion token, or kind of 2, a level 1 token and a level 2 token. Both of the tokens, the level 1 and 2 for Neckrium, are zombies. So even if you don't have that many actual zombie cards in your deck, you might have cards that let you play zombies. So let's see what we have here. We have Ossuary Mech. This is a robot spirit, and it lets you upgrade a card when it's destroyed. It's level gated at level 1. At level 2, it is upgrading any card, and then level 3 lets you play the card for free. You know, upgrading the card, you play it. When you play a card, then the upgraded version goes to your discard pile, so you are going to upgrade the card, but you also get the value of playing the card. Then we have Combat Spectre, which is another spirit. This one's a spirit warrior. It's a big body with stealth. So stealth means it can't be blocked by back row creatures. So if the opponent's creature has defender, you can put this in that lane. That defender creature is never going to block this stealth creature when it comes to combat. Or if you have the Forge and your opponent doesn't, they'll play a creature, and unless they have aggressive, it's not going to be able to chump block. We have Arrogant Walker, which is a card that has a removal, a deploy effect. So that is like a battle cry or an enter the battlefield effect, if you're familiar with Hearthstone or Magic. And then Arrogant, here's a thing to introduce with SolForge Fusion, is some of these cards are an amalgamation of an adjective and a noun. So Arrogant Walker, for instance, has arrogant and walker. Walker is a zombie with a certain amount of base stats and the effect of deploy, give enemy creature -2/-2. Arrogant is a modifier that layers on additional stats or abilities. Combat Spectre is also one of these fused cards. Sigmund Fraud and Ossuary Mech are not. How can you tell what's a fused card and what's not? We look at the rarity icon. We've got just like a circle here, that's the base set or alpha set. Then this circle has another like bordering circle around it. So this is just a card that's a common card. Blue is the color for common. And then the border here is the modifier. So it is a common base creature, Spectre, with a common modifier, combat. Whereas Arrogant Walker is a rare creature, so the circle's yellow, and Arrogant is the blue common modifier. Then we have Steadfast Geist. This is another fused creature. Venerable Drake, another fused creature. Indomitable Fiend. This one's pretty cool. Oh, let me talk about mobility before I move on to Indomitable Fiend. Venerable Drake, mobility 1. So this is a lane-based system where it's like you can... I think the word is exhausting is the correct term, where you take the card, it's a once a turn ability, you can exhaust it to activate this ability so it can move 1 lane over. With mobility, it can move up to 2 lanes. With mobility 3, up to 3 lanes. And Venerable makes a card stronger in the earlier levels and not as strong in the later levels. Steadfast Geist, you can see, is like, it only has 2 health in its level 1, but then it gets a ton of health in its level 2 and 3. That's another part about these games that I haven't actually talked about. We mentioned it with upgrading, but when you play a card, the next level of the card goes in your discard pile. So it's like this isn't a constructed game in the sense that you just put 2 half decks together and you play with it, but it's constructed in the sense of it's like a deck builder where the card I'm choosing is going to affect what card options I have in the future. So you're playing just both for the moment and for the future. That's what these levels are, and creatures have different amounts of value in the early game versus the later game. Indomitable Fiend is a creature, when this is destroyed, if you have the Forge, reanimate it. So the Forge is, you're going to alternate every other, it's just kind of who starts the turn. And so if you have the Forge, this dies, it gets reanimated, which means it comes from the banish pile back into play. Thundersoar. Okay, now, so that's done with the creatures from Neckrium, and now we're going to the creatures in Tempys. We have Thundersoar. Thundersoar is a I'm very fond of Thundersoar. He's big Godzilla laser dinosaur, and it's 0-12, so you're like, whoa, that's just big numbers and low numbers. Breakthrough is a cool keyword. It's like trample from Magic the Gathering, where the excess unblocked damage goes to the opponent's face. When this is dealt damage, give this that much attack. So it's a creature that, as it takes on the pain, it can throw it right back. Very, very fun. Then there's Fire Fist Uranti. This is a defender. We talked about this concept of defender earlier. This will sit in the back row no matter what. If you play it on Forge, it's in the back row. If you give it aggressive, it's in the back row. Defender supersedes aggressive. So this is always going to be in the back row unless somehow you first get rid, there's effects, I call them silences, but they're written on the cards as creatures lose printed abilities. So maybe an acronym is better, like creatures lose printed abilities. Klippe? I don't know. I like silence. Silence sounds better. So this has defender, so it's in the back row, and activate. Deal 1 damage to a creature or player. And then as it levels up, it deals 2, and then at level 3, it scales with its attack. So if you can buff the attack a bunch, then this Fire Fist Uranti can activate and just deal damage straight to your opponent's face. We have Lightning Tamer, which this is going to introduce the token for Tempys. You get to play up to 1 Spell Sprite minion, which is a 1/4 creature with the exact same text that says, when you play a spell, give this 2 attack. And then at level 2, it says you may play a Spell Swarm. That's the level 2 version of the Tempest minion, which is a 3/6. No, it's a 3/9 with the ability, when you play a spell, give this 3 attack. And then Lightning Tamer, level 3, has the same stats as a Spell Swarm, but the scaling is a little bit stronger at 4 attack per spell. We have Stout Giant. That's a fused creature. He gets pretty beefy. Fleet Colossus. That's another fused creature. The fleet giving mobility. Then we have Combat Spell Knight, which is another fused creature. So the combat is an extra, just different distribution of stats. And the Spell Knight part is what has this activate. If you played a spell this turn, give this 2 attack. So this, as it stays on the board, it's pretty beefy. You can keep getting incremental value, buffing its attack every turn. So activating creatures, you have to exhaust a creature to activate it, and then there are creatures that can ready, I think is the term, or spell effects or creature effects that can ready another creature. So you can get extra activations out, but you have to, that's based on specific cards. And then on the next turn, it automatically, like somewhere in the end of turn phasing, it reactivates. or readies. Now we're on to spells. So we're at the Neckrium spells Spirit Leash. Give an enemy creature -4/-4, and give up to one of your spirits +2/+2. We did have a few spirits in this deck. We had Steadfast Geist, Combat Spectre, and Ossuary Mech. So if you have one of those creatures out on the field when you play this spell, not only can you outright kill an opponent's creature or set its attack way lower, now you can buff up your own creature, so you might win combat in 2 lanes. Like, if you get the math just right, where the Spirit Leash brings down one of your opponent's creatures enough that your creature trades into it, and now buffs one of your other creatures enough now that your creature trades over the opponent's creature, you can go from making where it was a 2 for none, where they still have the bodies left over, trade from your opponent, to a 2 for none, or 2 for 1, because you're playing that card, taking advantage of your opponent. So that's definitely a cool card. We'll save that note for when we talk about Utera later. But Dreadbolt. Dreadbolt is a great removal spell. Just destroy a level 1 creature, destroy a level 1 or 2 creature, destroy an enemy creature. Very, very cool. Infernal Ritual. Here, this is where we're going to get the Neckrium minions. We have destroy one of your creatures to play up to 2 mindless zombies, and then give your zombies aggressive. Then at level 2, instead you make zombie brutes. So level 1 is a 3/3 zombie, that's the mindless zombie. Level 2 is a 6/6 zombie, that's the zombie brute. And you start to give it some attack as well as aggressive at level 2. And then level 3, you destroy something, you can make 3 zombie brutes, and now all of your zombies get +4 attacks. So the Infernal Ritual level 3 is a lot of value in one card, whereas the earlier level, it's not a ton of value. You get 6/6 in stats of aggressive, but you have to destroy one of your creatures in order to do it. So this is one of those cards that it might not be good to play right now. You might actually get a little bit weaker. You might be incentivized to play this so you get a stronger play later on. And on the Tempest part, we have Lightning Spark. This is just a pretty straightforward removal, but it can also be used for the opponent's face. So if you're playing this at level 1 to take out a creature, you know, if they have the 6/2 Geist that we saw in the Neckrium half here, we play that Lightning Spark, kills that, and then level 2, you know, you have 8 damage, remove something else. At the end of the game, like 10 health, that's 20% of your starting health. So 10 health at the end of the game can just boom, hit face, and we're not even going to wait for combat. Game's just done. So Lightning Spark is always a nice card to have. Sometimes, even if you didn't play it at all throughout the rest of the game, you just got your opponent down to 5 or less, draw Lightning Spark, the game's over. Everflame, this one is a very cool card. This one, here we go. Here's the word ready, the chosen creature, and give it +3. This turn, it gets mobility 1. So choose one of your creatures. If it has decreased health, this is free. So decreased health is the health lower than the printed number on the card. That's what dictates whether it's decreased or not. So playing a card for free is very good. Free just means it doesn't use up your action. So the level 1 can be free. You play 2 cards in one action phase, and then in level 2 it loses the freeness. This can be very good if you don't play Everflame Aura the whole game, and you have the Fire Fist Uranti level 3. You can, and it's the second turn, right? You played this. It's got 12 health, so it survived the trade from last turn. You got the activate when you played it, and now it's a new turn. You activate this. Maybe you either hit the opponent directly or you finish off whatever you were trading against. Now it has decreased health. You could play the level 1 for free, giving it extra attack and readying it. So now what would have been a 4 ping is now a 7 ping. So instead of dealing 4 in one turn without extra action phases, you do a total of 11 damage. So that's definitely a cool card to see in combination with Uranti. Fire Fist. And then we have Conflagrate. This one's cool. This scales with mages. Deal 2 damage to each of up to 2 different creatures and or players. Increase this damage by 1 for each mage you have in play. Then when it levels up to level 2, now you're increasing the amount of base damage by 1, but also adding an extra target. So now you can target up to 3 different creatures and or players. Level 3, that base damage goes up to 4, and now there's 4 targets, but also the number, the increase per mage goes up as well. So Conflagrate, with a full board of mages, 5 mages on board, can deal 9 damage to your opponent's face and 3 of their creatures to just clear the way for your mages to hit. So Conflagrate is a very cool spell if you have a lot of mages. In this deck, we've got 1, 2, 3. None in the Neckrium half, but there are Neckrium decks with mages. And then Disintegrate, this is a lot of damage for a removal spell, but it's conditioned on deal 8 damage to a creature that came into play this turn, and then 14 and 20. So the number scales up pretty high, but it's conditional. So Disintegrate can be a very valuable tool. All right, that is kind of the deck breakdown. As we play, I'll talk about how there's cool interactions between the individual cards here, but that's just a simple breakdown of what is in the deck. Now you have to make the choice, which of the Forgeborn do you want to do? Not only do you have 10 cards from each half, and each card has 3 levels, you have to pick, each deck has 1 Forgeborn. This is like your hero character you're going to pick, and you get these special abilities that you can use in addition to the cards. Soul Siphon says destroy one of your creatures to give one of your creatures +5/+5. Drain life, deal 6 damage to a creature, you gain 6 health. Death Touch, destroy an enemy creature. Tempest, the Tempest one, we have Sunder, Stimbolt, play a spell for free. Summon the Swarm, play a Spell Swarm minion, so that's a 3/9 that has +3 attack every time you play a spell. And then Gathering Storm, when you play a spell this turn, deal 8 damage to a creature or player. When we want to evaluate what we want to use, I see the Sunders like we have play a free spell, make a minion that scales with spells, deal extra damage when you play spells. So I would go and check what's the spell situation. So it's very common. Most decks have 3 spells is the most common, and then but it can have up to 6 and as low as 1. So this is going to be a 3 and a 4, so a total of 7. And one of the spells can be free. So in that play of in the late game using the Fire Fist your auntie, what if you're getting an additional 8 damage just playing that spell for free? So that's a good underdrop, a card that can have value in its lower level later on in the game. Or Cersei looks like you're fighting for board control. Soul Siphon is really good if you have the Indomitable Fiend, because if you have the Forge and you use that, the Indomitable Fiend comes back and you're getting a free +5/+5. So there's definitely some cool things that can be made with this. Or if you have a creature that is living with 1 health, get value out of the body, whatnot. And then we have Life Drain, deal 6 to a creature and gain 6, and Death Touch, destroy an enemy creature. This is very control-y, fighting for the board, kind of take your time, have your opponent, your responses to your opponent so your threats can hit. And we don't have a ton of spell synergy, so I'm gonna personally pick Cersei, but there are definitely some cool plays that you can do with playing free spell, that getting an extra spell into a turn on a critical moment with this Sunder. So we're gonna do Cersei. And I didn't tell anybody that I was streaming, so I just went through. That's good. We'll use that as a YouTube thing. We'll do a little clip clippity clop of that.